Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark Knox. I'm with NEC Display Solutions. I'm joining you from beautiful Downers Grove, Illinois at our headquarters. I'm actually standing in the Executive Briefing Center. Now this is a place where you can come and experience all of the glory of NEC products in one location. Now here at NEC, I serve as the Vertical Sales Solutions Consultant, which basically means I get to tackle all different types of markets and figure out what the best products to fit the solutions that are in need, people just like you. Now today we're going to be talking about enhancing the worship experience. Now of course, every presentation I start off with, every training, I go through these 8 questions. Now the important part of these 8 questions is that they are specifically tailored to the house of worship space. So let's jump right in. Number 1, who's going to be the primary viewer? Now what I mean by that is, are we talking about the main sanctuary? Are we talking about the lobby? Are we talking about the children's ministry, or maybe even Sunday school? The type of displays that you choose for house of worship is all going to be determined by the person or people or group of people that's going to be viewing that display. The next question is, what content are they planning to view? Now, the content question is very, very important because there's going to be a big difference between applications that require, let's say, a color critical or something that's more oriented towards contrast. So let's, for example, say we're talking about the main sanctuary and we're doing 80% lyrics on the screen. We want to go with the high contrast product that's going to give us a great image when we're looking at light text on a dark background. The next question is, when and how often will this display be used? Now, of course, house of worship space, we would love to have our seats filled every single day of the week. But the reality is 2 to 3 services or 2 to 3 experiences per week for a couple hours at a time is the reality of the house of worship space. Again, we want to choose the product that's going to give us the best bang for the buck when it comes to the life cycle. Now, of course, the next question is, how are we going to connect to the display? Are we going to go through a production suite? Are we going to go through a bring your own device, maybe in a Sunday school? Are we going to stream wirelessly from an iPad in the pulpit? That question brings us to more so the back end solutions that we're going to tie into that display. Of course, every single display, every single piece of technology that you put into your organization has to have a dream, has to have a vision or a goal, right? We want to make sure that we have a goal for every single piece of technology that we put into service. So we really need to understand, maybe we need to draw back on our mission statement, maybe our statement of purpose, and we need to figure out, why exactly are we putting a monitor here? Why are we adding more screens here, right? So we want to make sure that everything we do aligns with the goal. Was there a display in this place, and why is it being replaced? The worst thing we can do is take a display and replace it with another display that was exactly the same. Now, of course, there's evolutionary upgrades and product categories and things like that, but for the most part, we want to make sure that every time we add a piece of equipment into our ecosystem, that we're taking it to the next level. Are there any other factors for the space that we should consider? Now, here's what I mean by that. Do we have an extensive lighting package, right? Are we using fog machines? Are we using any types of laser displays, things like that? We want to make sure that we know all of the other factors, right? For example, we don't want a set of studio lights shining in the same direction as a projection screen, right? We don't want to mount a projector to the roof of the sanctuary or to the ceiling of the sanctuary that has an active roof, that has a bunch of HVAC that constantly causes the roof to contract and recede. That will give us a wiggly image, right? So we want to make sure that we know all of the factors for that particular space. Now, the last and final most important question, the question that this whole presentation is built on, the reason why I do what I do at NEC, in terms of house of worship, we want to enhance the worship experience. That's the only reason that we have the technology inside of our organizations, right? We want to make the worship experience go from here to here. And sometimes adding a screen will do that. Sometimes adding a piece of technology, new lighting, new microphones will do that. But sometimes they can take away and be a distraction. So we want to make sure that everything that we do, every piece of technology that we consider, especially when it comes to displays, that we're enhancing the worship experience. Now, forgive me here, but one of my favorite movies is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I used to watch that movie as a little boy, and there's a quote in there that says, we are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams. Now, basically what that means is, if we can think it, if we can dream it, then it's a possibility. Now, a lot of times, different stakeholders within the organization will bring us ideas, and maybe it's not in the budget now. Maybe it'll be in the budget future. Maybe we need to raise a special fund, right, to get what we need. But the point here is when we start thinking of ideas, the best thing we can do is put those out on the table and see if it's even possible. You see an image here of a church in California that chose to do some projector mapping on the side of their building. They actually used the side of their building as a canvas to communicate a message. And that's completely acceptable to do with NEC Display products. Now, we've got display solutions for the entire house. And what I mean by that is NEC Display is one of the only manufacturers that can offer you every single piece of display technology that's commercially available on the market. So for example, for the pulpit or the sanctuary, we got projectors. We have direct view LED video walls, large flat panels that can be served as confidence monitors. Right, for your Sunday school, we've got collaboration screens that are touch enabled. We've got video walls and of course projectors, your lobby or your vestibule, mobile kiosks, right, to get that message across. Projectors as well. Maybe you want to do something on the floor. Maybe you want to do some projector mapping in the lobby. And then of course, flat panels as well. Now for the production suite, if you're doing the online church right now, right, that's a huge thing. That's getting the message across. That's getting the message across the world. We've got video walls that can go in those production suites. We've got direct view LED that can serve as backdrops, right, that look a certain way when they're on camera. We also can do image magnification with our large venue products and of course, desktop displays. Now with that said, I want to make sure that you understand this, right? So I've got some visuals here. What we see is a couple things, right? We see the center section, which is actually where I serve at my church in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we've got a children's ministry, right? The children's ministry here, we just deployed some flat panel monitors. We got a projector in the middle. We're creating a space that is engaging for the children. So how do we enhance the worship experience for the children? Well, they're looking at screens all day at home, right, in the car. So now we add screens at church because that's what will get their attention so that we can get that message across. We've also got some digital signage here. We've got some projector mapping in the main sanctuary. These are all some conceptual ideas that you can deploy for a relatively manageable cost, right? If done in the right way, they can also be multi-purposed. Now we want to transform the service into an experience. We want to take your normal weekly services or maybe even some special events, and we want to help you elevate those. And one of the ways that we can do that is through displays, right? So of course at NEC, we actually have products that are completely slated to do environmental mapping. Maybe you want to do some creative DV LED configurations. Fun fact, the church that I serve at has went through over a dozen different direct view LED configurations in the main sanctuary in less than 2 years. Right? Because they tend to switch things up every season or every quarter to align with the messaging that's coming across from the pulpit. Something to consider. Your Sunday school, you want to do maybe an interactive floor with projection. You want to do a bring your own collaboration device with the children. Maybe you want to do some question and answer. That's all a possibility. You see a picture here that has some high contrast snow. This is of course a holiday program with the choir in the front, the high contrast snow on the backdrop. But again, these are all things that we sit around and think of, and until you run into somebody like me, you don't really understand if it's even possible. So of course your lobby and your vestibule, which we talked about earlier, wayfinding, health and safety messaging, right? In the world that we live in today, we want to make sure that we can update that message quickly, affordably, and it's an ever-changing message, so it's going to have to happen on the fly, right? You think about printed signs and things like that. Well, in today's world, there's only so many printed signs before you're actually into the price points of some digital monitors. Of course, special events, maybe you want to do an outdoor service to comply with some social distancing measures. We've also got projectors that you're able to do some drive-in movies with, right there in the parking lot. You want to take the word out of the four walls of the building and you want to go in the parking lot and give a big, vibrant screen. We've got outdoor LED products. We've got projectors that actually have digital cinema certifications that can give you that capability. And of course, multi-site. Now I know everybody's not multi-site, right? I know maybe that's an aspiration of some of you. You want to be multi-site, but there are some organizations who are currently multi-site, and those organizations are streaming the worship portion, they're streaming the message portion, and they're using large venue display products so that everything is consistent across the campuses, Okay. Now here's a couple more examples of thinking beyond the screen. Now, of course, the traditional application for projection, the traditional application for direct view LED is large venue, showing content. Maybe you're doing image magnification, maybe you're showing some graphics. But a alternative solution is taking that same projector, for example, and doing like the church did in California. Here's another picture across the bottom that shows us that they had a drive-through Christmas parade, and they're doing the projection mapping on the building, right? We've got another location up in the upper corner here that just had a simple praise and worship evening service. So they were able to just shine a image of their church name and a cross right there on the side of the building. Very practical solutions, right? That give you a great bang for the buck. Now, of course, we talked about the messages in a changing time, the messages of the current situation that we're in. Digital signage is extremely important, not only to communicate the message, but to make sure that you stay up to date with the message, right? We've also used projectors to shine on the floor to give us some, not only wayfinding, but to do some traffic management, right? To make sure that those crowds stay in a social distance area. Maybe we've got some updated policies and procedures, right, from the CDC that we want to communicate to our congregants on a weekly basis. We've also got some cool LED posters, right? We've got some LED posters that stand about 6.5 feet tall that you can put out that you can't miss if there's a message on those, right? So moving right along, again, technology is a tool to communicate the message, right? So we want to make sure that the technology does not detract from the message. We want to make sure that the technology complements the message, that the technology helps engage the congregants to bring them to a greater understanding of whatever it is that you're trying to convey to those individuals. So of course, you've got traditional applications with direct view LED, which can be reconfigured. We talked about that. You've got front projection, rear projection. You've got blending, right? That's when you take, let's say, at least two projectors and you make kind of a panorama widescreen deal where you can get a real cool image that stretches across the entire sanctuary. We've got warping, when maybe you want to do something on some columns, or you want to wrap a globe, or you want to do something really cool in a convex area of the sanctuary. That is all a possibility. Now, I'm talking about projection a lot, right? And the reason I'm talking about projection because projection for the foreseeable future is going to be the most inexpensive way to get the largest screen possible, right? Direct view LED is great product. And trust me, we have some awesome products. However, a lot of individuals, a lot of churches, just like yourselves, think that maybe I can't get that big image that I'm looking for because I can't necessarily afford direct view LED at this moment. Well, I'm here to tell you that projection is a great way to get into large venue, right? Everybody is not on that level. I completely understand. The important part is every time you see an open space, every time you see a blank wall, you should see that as opportunity to convey a message. So in this second portion of this presentation, I know in the first portion we talked a lot about the concept, we talked a lot about some of the use cases, but in the second portion, I wanted to speak directly to the technology, right? Because I understand that it can be very confusing when you're presented to by multiple manufacturers, and sometimes you're looking for model numbers and specifics, and everything just gets jumbled around. I get it. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk a little bit about direct view LED, then we're going to talk about some benefits of projection, right? Maybe some benefits of laser projection. So jumping right in here, direct view LED technology comes in all shapes and sizes. And what I mean by that, it's kind of a play on words, is that you can take direct view LED modules and you can make pretty much any rectangular shape that you can think of, right? So that's what I said before. The church that I go to, the church that I serve at, has had over a dozen configurations. Now, they're not buying different LED panels and screens every single time. Most of the time, they're taking away from the larger display that's the hallmark right in the middle of the sanctuary on the stage, and they're reconfiguring that into smaller type displays, right? That is absolutely a possibility that you can achieve too. We've also got, like I mentioned before, the 6.5 foot posters. Now think of that as a 6.5 foot standalone digital media player that you can load content to right on scene, that is connected to a beautiful, vibrant direct view LED display. Now you can change that message on the fly, you can rotate messages, you can put that message in different locations of the building based on your specific need. The important part is with DirectView LED, your message is going to be clear, it's going to be vibrant, it's going to be colorful, and ambient light is not going to be an issue, right? So if we walk through a little bit of what we have to offer from DirectView LED, we've got indoor DirectView LED, we've got outdoor DirectView LED. We've got pixel pitches in our entry-level series from 1.2 all the way to 3.8, right? So based on the size of your sanctuary, based on the optimal seating distance, is going to help you determine what size you need. Now, of course, here at NEC Display Solutions, we've got all the tools and we've got all the people, all the experts that can help you figure that out. So don't feel like you're alone. We've also got outdoor series DirectView LED that comes in 2.8 millimeters all the way up to 4.8 millimeters. So if you want to do something on the side of your building, if you've got maybe a outdoor sports complex that you want to put a scoreboard in, this is going to be that product for you. Now, switching gears a little bit, talking about projection, remember what I said before, projectors for the foreseeable future are always going to be the most cost-effective way to get the largest screen possible. So you can go anywhere from, let's say, a 100-inch screen all the way up to 500 inches, assuming that you use the right projector. So our projector series is as such. I've highlighted here on this particular chart that you see in the blue shading, we've got the PA series, which is a 3 LCD, very color accurate projector that is going to come in 6,500 lumens all the way to 10,000 lumens. So when we're talking about that single screen, that all important screen that's going to be in the center of your sanctuary, you want to get the best bang for the buck. The PA series is where you're going to be focused at. We've also got lensing, so don't worry about the mounting situation, right? If we need to mount closer, if we need to mount further back, we've got lensing that'll take you all the way to 6.0. That's 6 times the width of the screen. We can put that projector away from the actual screen that it's going to be projecting on. So when it comes to installation flexibility, of course, no maintenance, right? So who has ever changed a bulb in a projector? Raise your hand if you have, right? I definitely have. Now, if you've done it at a church, it's extremely difficult, especially if you have stationary pews, because for some reason, we didn't think of that, right? And we have to rent a lift, or maybe we have to put a ladder and get a couple spotters and have somebody go up and change the bulb every, couple thousand hours. Well, now with laser projection and no maintenance projectors, exclusively from NEC, and of course paired with a 5-year warranty, once that projector goes up, there's very little that can happen to it. There's very little that needs to happen to it on a regular basis for you to have to rent a lift or a cherry picker and go up and change that bulb, right? Now the next series on the step up is gets you into 4K. So that's going to be like a PX 1005. That's a PX series projector. That's DLP. Now remember earlier when I was talking about lyrics, right? Now, most churches, 90% of what you're putting on that screen is dark background with light text, where contrast is extremely important because you want the people all the way in the back of the sanctuary to be able to read those lyrics and engage in that worship. DirectView LED is a great option to do that, but of course that's not always cost effective, right? So if that's the case, PX series projection is going to be where you're going to look at. 8,000 lumens all the way to 20,000 lumens to give you a very vibrant picture, a very contrast rich picture. Readability and things like that will not be an issue with PX. Now, if you want to take it all the way to the top, if you want to get a cinema quality experience, then you're going to look at what's right over my shoulder. You're going to look at the PH series. The PH series starts at 26,000 lumens and goes to 35,000 lumens. Now, the great part about the PA series is since we are leaders in digital cinema projection, we've taken the secret sauce that we put in those digital cinema projectors and we've applied it to large venue versions of those units so that people just like you can use those without any restrictions of digital rights. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a very exciting new product from the NEC Display Solutions laser projector line. The PX2000 UL is a 20,000 lumen single chip DLP projector in a very affordable and small form factor. Now this projector, being capable of 20,000 lumens, will light up screens from 100 inches all the way to 500. And with a great extensive line of lenses, we can go from 1.0 all the way to about 6.0, right? So this can be mounted right up on the screen or all the way in the back of the sanctuary. Now the important part of 20,000 lumens in projection is really when you start talking about projector mapping You start talking about environmental projection. So maybe you want to take those theatrical performances, maybe that Christmas play to the next level. This is the unit that you can multi-use to do that, right? So you can multi-use for environmental projection, projector mapping, or you can use it on a weekly basis to do lyrics and graphics. Now, I mentioned earlier that the PA series is going to be the exact prescription for most organizations. Now, when I say most organizations, I'm talking about that mid-size church that maybe has less than 500 people, and we're talking about that big single screen right in the middle of the sanctuary where you're looking for the best bang for the buck. You're looking for a maintenance-free, long operation. Of course, lampless with the laser projector line. You're still going to get a great 5-year warranty. The PA series is a 3-chip LCD projector that again has those extensive lenses that can take you all the way from 0.44 to 6.0, which means that we can mount the projector right above the screen, or we can go to the back of the sanctuary in most cases. Now, this being a 3 LCD projector, this is going to give you color critical, right? So when we start talking about graphics, when we start talking about lyrics, we start talking about theatrical productions where you need to put things on screens, this is going to be that projector that's going to give you some great color reproduction. So again, if we recap laser projection specifically, there's a couple things that apply to you guys' situations, that apply to churches, that are extremely important. Of course, decreased total cost of ownership, because we're going on less ladder climbs, we're changing no bulbs, and of course with NEC, we're completely filterless, right? You don't necessarily have to worry about bringing in a volunteer, going up a ladder, insurance, things like that. What if he falls off? You know, these things go through our heads. You don't have to worry about those things, because once that projector goes up by your certified installer, it's up for at least, let's say, 5 to 7 years. 20,000 hours. Now, you just heard me say 5 to 7 years, and I bet your ears kind of perked up a little bit. When I say 5 to 7 years, that's in a typical installation or a duty cycle that's operating 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. Now, if you draw back on the beginning of our presentation, you guys' duty cycles may not be just that. So if you think about if you're using your projector for 8, maybe 10 hours a week, imagine how long it would last from a duty cycle standpoint. Now, that 20,000 hours is very specific. That 20,000 hours is not when the projector is going to cut off and the screen is going to go black forever. That 20,000 hours is when the projector is going to be at half the brightness that it started at. So for example, if you take that 10,000 lumen PX 1005 QL projector, in 20,000 hours, it's going to be 5,000 lumens. You'll still see an image, right? There's also eco mode. So let's say you don't need 20,000 lumens, or you don't need 10,000 lumens. You can put it in eco mode, drop it down a couple percentages, and extend the lamp life that much longer. Now, of course, there's the fail-safe laser diode configuration. So in the past, when the bulb was out, there was no image. Well, there are several dozen laser diodes in each one of these projectors. The chances of all of them failing at once are extremely minimal, right? What more so happens is as that projector ages, those diodes start to burn out one by one, and that happens over the course of that 20,000 hours, okay? So let's say one diode goes out, hey, you're still in business, you still have an image, you're still service ready on that Sunday morning. Your light source intensity adjustments, maybe you have a special program where you want to switch from lyrics on the screen to maybe some type of theatrical presentation, and you don't need the projector as bright. You can dial that light intensity down in 1% increments from 100% all the way to 20%. Color critical. Now, again, a lot of us operate with volunteers, right? A lot of us don't have an entire staff. If you do, that is absolutely great. But the reality is, when you're operating with volunteers, sometimes nailing down a graphic designer is kind of difficult, right? Nailing down somebody to do graphics for songs, or maybe you're paying for a service to download graphics and overlay them over your lyrics. It's kind of difficult, right? So how would it be if you spent all of that time, all of that energy, those resources on getting great graphics, and your projector was incapable of reproducing those colors, right? Well, with laser projection, your color accuracy is almost as good as it is with a desktop monitor. Now that says a lot. With direct view LED, it's actually more accurate. With laser projection, it's right there. Time saving, so instant on-off functionality. Now here's the scenario, and you guys can all identify with this. You've got a volunteer in the sound booth. You got a volunteer in the production suite, right? You've got someone who is trained on how to use the system. They know the basics, volume up, volume down, fade, right? Mixing. But sometimes things get out of whack, and sometimes they have to shut everything down. Now, when the projector goes off, if it's a lamp-based model, it's going to take 4 or 5 minutes to cool down. It's going to take another 2 to 3 minutes to boot back up. Now, if you're in the middle of a service, if you're in the middle of a message, or if you're in the middle of worship, that's 6 minutes that you're not going to be able to get back from a lyric standpoint or from a scripture standpoint or just even graphics. With laser projection, you're actually able to cut it off and cut it right back on with about 7 seconds on the front end and 10 seconds on the back end. That can save some embarrassing moments. Tilt-free operation. We talked about seeing spaces in our buildings and seeing opportunity. Well, with tilt-free operation, we can point a projector at the floor. We can turn it in portrait mode and point it at the wall. We can wrap that image around a pole. We can point it at an angle and shoot in a corner. With lamp projection, that wasn't a possibility. Lamp projectors needed to be either right side up or upside down. Laser projection can point in any direction. Of course, I would be remiss if I ended this presentation without talking about the industry-leading 5-year warranty that is standard on all NEC Display Solutions laser projectors. Now, 5 years is at least 2 years better than anyone else, right? So as a testament to our products, as a testament to the quality that we put into our products and the way that we stand behind it, you're going to get 24-hour advanced replacement, and you're also going to get 5 years of a company who backs their gear. You know what? This presentation has been great. I really thank you guys for your time. I thank you for availing yourselves to learn more about how to enhance the worship experience. Remember, every piece of technology that we deploy, every piece of technology that we put into our organization, granted, every piece of technology that we are blessed with the money to buy, right? We want to make sure that we're putting that toward enhancing the worship experience, right? So again, my name is Mark Knox. I'm with NEC Display Solutions, coming to you from beautiful Downers Grove in our Executive Briefing Center. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.